Let's move on to this Alaska Air Group stock right now. Stock's actually higher by 1.25%. They announced they're expanding their international routes. The airline's going to start rolling out flights from Seattle to London and to Iceland in May of next year, following the acquisition of Hawaiian Airlines, which that was completed last year. Now they're doing that integration. Alaska plans to fly daily between Seattle and London on its Boeing 787-9 Dreamliners. The airline is just one of the many clients of Willis Lease Finance Corporation. They're the leading lessor of commercial aircraft engines and a global provider of aviation services. Now, the stock itself, as you can see right now, and there are the second quarter numbers, intraday, it's higher by 7%. They reported record revenue, $195.5 million for the second quarter, increase of 30% year over year. I want to bring in a Fox Business exclusive, Willis Lease Finance Corporation CEO Austin Willis. Austin, thank you for being here after a pretty strong quarter for you. Let's take our viewers through the numbers for you. Record quarterly pre-tax income, $74.3 million. Lease rent revenue, $72.3 million. That's a gain of almost 30% year over year. And then spare parts and equipment sales hitting $30.4 million. Your portfolio utilization, increased to 88.3% at the quarter end. So these are pretty astonishing numbers, I got to say. The growth is strong. What do you think is the main driver here in all of these?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Cheryl. I'm thrilled to be on the show. It's really driven by a few different factors. One is the growth in our portfolio. Year over year, we acquired about $1 billion in assets. And the utilization, that's the percentage of our engines that are out there working, earning money. And really, that's a function of the airlines having more repairs for the engines. The previous generation or current generation of engines, the CFM56 and the V2500, they had a lot of pent-up maintenance that needed to be done. And then when the pandemic hit, it delayed it for a certain extent. And now it's really starting to show itself. You combine that with the future generation of the equipment, the LEAP and the geared turbofan, which power the A320neo and the MAX. They fundamentally aren't lasting on wing as long as the prior generation. So the combination of the two is creating a situation where you need a lot of maintenance done on these engines. And that's really what's driving it for us, because not only do we have a $3 billion portfolio, but we've also got engine maintenance facilities both in the US and the UK. So for the customer, we're solving not just a planning issue, but we're solving a maintenance issue as well. And that's the predominant factor driving our returns.
It's really interesting that airlines are utilizing this. Again, the utilization that I mentioned earlier. But some of your clients, I mean, you got some of the biggest guys in the world here on your list: Alaska, United, Delta, JetBlue, British Airways, Air Canada. These are just a few. And, you know, what we're seeing so far in their quarterly reports that we've received in this quarter is that demand and traffic is strong. Does that trickle down to your business, or do you feel that you have kind of a separate piece of the pie, if you will, of the airline business?
Yeah, so we're an interesting business. I mean, we saw demand, I would say, for the airlines, for travelers, hiccup a little bit towards the end of the second quarter. But then, you know, when you're looking at the forecasts for the different airlines, it appears to be pretty strong again. You know, we share in their success in that the more the airlines are flying, the more time is consumed on the engines, and the more engines have to go in for maintenance. So for us, it's definitely a good thing. That being said, you know, we do have certain counter-cyclical elements to our business as well. So, you know, we've been in business for 40 years. We were around post 9/11 through the global financial crisis. And what we found is the finance departments of airlines, when they're faced with the prospect of a really expensive, call it $10 million overhaul, oftentimes they'll take that engine off and lease in a spare engine during the recession. So, you know, it's interesting that when the market expands as it is now, we tend to do pretty well, but we also do all right during recessions.
Yeah, that's interesting. And again, I mean, that, you know, the fact that airlines are doing this, I think, is probably smart, especially for them, considering they've got so many other maintenance issues they've got to deal with. But I want to ask you about the steel and aluminum tariffs in particular, because you mentioned, you know, your operations. You've got Florida, you've got California, but you also mentioned Europe. You've also got India, Japan, China. Talk to me about the tariff story for you right now, because if you've got components or parts or even full engines that are being transported between these nations, is that going to be a tariff hit for you?
So first and foremost, I want to say that we're thrilled that it looks like there's an agreement now between the U.S. and the EU to have a stay on tariffs for aircraft and aircraft-related equipment, of which engines qualify. So that's great. The majority of production is between the U.S. and the EU, so having that open flow between the two jurisdictions is really important. Now, that being said, there are still areas where tariffs are applicable, and obviously steel and aluminum come into play as well. So the impact is that will likely lead to some level of engine asset inflation, which, for us isn't necessarily a bad thing. On the one hand, it does make it a little bit more expensive for us to acquire new assets potentially, but on the other hand, it makes the value of our existing portfolio a lot more valuable. So it's sort of a double-edged sword.
Before you go, real quick, I've only got about 30 seconds. You were a Green Beret. You thought about getting into defense? Military?
It's something we look at, and something we're definitely considering.
Okay, there you go. Let us know. Come back on the Claman Countdown when you've decided. Austin.